Russia's RIA state news agency has reported a serious warning. The West could lose assets worth at least $288 billion if frozen Russian funds are permanently seized. Could it be that the latest sanctions from the European Union and the United States have backfired? Interestingly, the West holds a much stronger hand in terms of total Russian assets frozen abroad. According to recent estimates, the West has frozen around $300 billion of Russia's central bank reserves and other state-controlled assets. These funds are held across financial institutions in Europe, the United States, and several allied nations. Here's the breakdown. European banks alone are holding about 207 billion euros. American institutions follow, managing roughly $67 billion. In the UK, about £37 billion has been frozen. Japanese banks are holding 36 billion yen. Smaller amounts include $19 billion in Canada and $6 billion in Australia. Most of these funds are tied up in foreign securities, accounts, and financial transactions, making them easy for Western governments to locate and freeze. And what about Russia's oligarchs? Beyond state funds, Russian billionaires have also been hit hard. Their yachts, estates, and even private jets have been seized. Germany took control of Alisher Usmanov's $750 million yacht and $90 million in real estate. Authorities in Jersey froze $7 billion of Roman Abramovich's assets. Italy seized a stunning Sardinian villa owned by Nikita Mazepin, worth over $114 million. France and Spain also confiscated luxury properties and yachts from other Russian elites. Altogether, these seizures add up to around $58 billion. Western governments coordinated these efforts through a task force called REPO, Russian elites, proxies, and oligarchs, which tracks and seizes assets across borders. Banks have played a central role in flagging and freezing these funds as required by law. When you compare the numbers, the West clearly has the upper hand. With $300 billion frozen from Russia's central bank and $58 billion from oligarchs, the West's grip far outweighs Russia's leverage. Still, Russia isn't backing down. In July 2024, the Russian government passed a decree that legalizes the seizure of Western assets inside its borders. However, this presents a logistical challenge. Unlike the centralized Russian funds abroad, Western assets in Russia, worth $288 billion, are spread across many sectors and companies. This makes them harder to target in a unified way. Even though seizing these assets won't be easy, it's not out of reach. That's why the West is treating Russia's threat very seriously. So how is Russia planning to carry this out? Russia has adopted a firm and strategic stance. Its response is designed to pressure Western businesses operating in Russia. Companies that want to exit the Russian market are now forced to sell their assets at a 50% discount, effectively taking huge financial hits just to leave. On top of that, a departure tax of up to 35% is now being applied to these sales. That's more than double the 15% rate that was in place as recently as October 2024. Clearly, this tax is designed to make leaving Russia as painful as possible for foreign companies, while also bringing in extra revenue for the Russian government. And the pressure doesn't stop there. Western companies are also facing tight controls on how they move their profits out of Russia. The Kremlin has imposed strict limits on repatriating revenue, further complicating business operations for foreign firms. Russia is making sure that money stays inside its economy instead of flowing back to Western countries. This move is strategic. It not only makes things harder for foreign companies doing business in Russia, but also aims to keep the Russian economy stable during a difficult period. At the same time, Russia is placing travel bans on certain individuals, including EU officials. These bans make it harder for affected people to negotiate or resolve issues with Russia and could create serious diplomatic problems. Big companies like Carlsberg and Danone are already under pressure. For Carlsberg, which has long been a major name in Russia's beer market, the consequences are severe. The company is now under tighter government control and is being pushed to sell its Russian assets at a big loss, resulting in huge financial damage. Danone, the French food company, isn't doing much better. With deep investments in Russia's dairy sector, Danone is now caught in the middle. Russia's restrictions on sending profits abroad are causing major issues for their global business. In fact, in December 2024, a former Russian executive officially took control of all Danone operations in Russia, completing the country's takeover of the business. But this problem goes beyond Carlsberg and Danone. Larger corporations are also stuck. Take PepsiCo, for example. Pepsi has been in Russia since the 1970s, creating a huge network of local brands and factories. Now, because of sanctions, the company is facing major challenges, including limits on taking profits out and the potential need to sell assets at big losses. This threatens not just their finances, but also their supply chains and staff. Interestingly, both Pepsi and Coca-Cola still operate in Russia, but they are blocked from transferring any of their profits out of the country. The same thing happened to ExxonMobil. After investing billions into Russia's oil and gas projects, the energy giant had to exit without recovering its assets. With high taxes and possible asset seizures, Exxon's Russian business is rapidly shrinking. Ford is also on the list. Once a key player in Russia's car market with its own production facilities, Ford is now dealing with the risk of forced asset sales or government takeovers. These new sanctions don't just hurt earnings, they are changing the way companies operate in a very unstable political environment. In Europe, Unilever offers another clear example. Known for its wide range of food and personal care products, Unilever had several factories in Russia. But in October 2024, the company was forced to sell these factories at a loss, and getting profits out of Russia became nearly impossible. In the tech sector, Siemens has a large presence in Russia, covering everything from energy to factory automation. But with increasing sanctions, the company fears its infrastructure might be seized or taxed heavily. To avoid this, Siemens is working to sell all of its assets in the country. This situation is about more than just money. Russia's counter-sanctions are creating higher costs, legal complications, and disruptions in day-to-day operations for foreign firms. Being forced to sell assets cheaply, combined with new taxes, makes it extremely hard for companies to continue doing business, or even to exit, without serious financial damage. There are global consequences too. Investors around the world may hesitate to enter the Russian market, which could reduce foreign direct investment. Key industries like energy and consumer products, where Russia plays a major role, could face supply chain problems that spill over into international markets. This leads to a big question. How will Western companies rethink their long-term strategies in Russia? Will they adjust to the new situation or pull out completely? Leaving behind a market that was once full of potential, Russia's new policies are sending shockwaves that go far beyond just a few companies. Reports suggest that Russia is now turning inward, focusing more on using its own resources and becoming self-sufficient while letting go of expectations for foreign investment. But will the impact stay limited to Russia's economy? Or could this create global shifts in how companies operate, especially in unpredictable regions? By targeting Western businesses, Russia is making a strong statement. It has no plans to give in to economic pressure. This move adds more tension to an already strained relationship with the West and shows that Russia is willing to escalate the economic conflict further. During a recent press event, President Vladimir Putin said Russia is now stronger because it learned to rely less on the West. According to him, the sanctions have actually helped Russia by pushing it to grow its local markets and find new ways to get around Western restrictions. Diplomatic ties, already badly damaged due to the war in Ukraine, are likely to break down even more. As more Western companies leave, Russia could find itself cut off from the global economy. This isolation might lead to long-term economic decline, and things could still get worse. With both sides introducing new economic actions, the risk of a full-scale economic war is becoming more real. In response to Russia's aggressive steps, the European Union has launched a smart and calculated counter-strategy. These steps are designed to protect European companies from serious financial damage and operational confusion. At the same time, they show the EU's firm stance on defending its economic interests against outside threats. But a big question remains. Will these actions be effective in the long run? Can they truly weaken the impact of this growing economic battle? A key part of the EU's 15th sanctions package, passed in December 2024, focuses on protecting European businesses. One major part of this package is the ban on enforcing Russian court decisions within the EU. This stops Russian courts from being able to seize European assets or place fines through their legal system. By refusing to recognize those court orders, the EU helps shield its companies from huge legal and financial problems. Understanding how hard it is to leave the Russian market, the EU is also giving companies more time to exit. They've extended the deadlines for withdrawal into 2025, allowing time for careful planning and discussion. This reduces the chance of rushed financial decisions that could lead to big losses. On top of that, the sanctions package includes legal protections for central securities depositories, vital institutions that manage financial assets and ensure smooth trading across Europe. These protections help guard them from any potential backlash from Russia. Without these safeguards, disruptions could spread across the broader European financial system. All of this is part of the EU's 15th sanctions package announced in December 2024. Whether these measures will affect the larger conflict is still unclear. It's also expected that more countries, especially in the global south, will be drawn into this situation. The continued use of sanctions and counter-sanctions only makes businesses more hesitant to trust international partnerships, especially with the West. As Russia reacts, foreign investors may begin to avoid any country connected to this conflict, fearing instability. Will this growing cycle of economic retaliation get out of hand? Or will diplomacy step in before the world economy takes a major hit? The result of this conflict could change the way countries use economic and political power for many years to come. If you found this video helpful, check out more on our channel for deep dives into global economic trends. Don't forget to subscribe and stay up to date with the latest global developments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.